We took a chuck roast, we separated it in 2 steaks, and we just put it on the pellet grill for a good grilled steak. Let's go. The traditional chuck roast. I'm in my late 30s, and I just now figured this out. Honestly, I had no idea, which goes to prove to you guys, I honestly don't know everything. I will proudly admit that just like anything, when you don't do it often, you don't know all the information on that side. There are several times that my wife and I have had a fantastic chuck roast, braised, you know, you name it, but you get that honey pot. It's almost like that money muscle inside of a pork butt, right? You know when you hit it. And my comment to her has always been, I wish we could find that money muscle more often. Never thought 2 things about it. I was at my local Ingles and I got a chance to meet with my butcher, and he walked me through the process of the idea of a chuck-eye steak, the Denver steak, and how it comes together on the chuck roll, the chuck roast, you name it.
This is where it leads up into the shoulder, into the neck. As you get further down till about right here, we'll give it a cut. The rest of that's going to be your chuck eye. That leads into the rib eye. So this is going to be your chuck eye. This is the poor man's rib eye. That's a great cut. Now this top piece, that's going to be your Denver steak. You can make Denver steaks, short ribs, or make some breakfast steak with it.
So that led me to today. Today is all about, you kind of see this trend going on. People wanting to save money. I 100% agree. You're going to hear people come out of the woodwork and say, oh, you got to buy the whole chuck roll. It's cheaper per pound. 100% agree. You're going to hear people say that like they can find it for a cheaper price. I completely agree. There's also that idea that butchers are now learning that people are specifically targeting certain cuts of meat. So in the old days, this used to be kind of called like a butcher cut because they would hide this cut from the consumer. It's not as prized value. You take the chuck eye steak, and we all know that's kind of like a poor man's ribeye. It's very tender. You need to cook it like a medium rare or something like that. Don't want to overcook. You start overcooking it, it'll start being tough. That being said, the reason why that's important is because you can't find this all the time when you go to the grocery store. You got to find that specific chuck roast that allows us to do this. You got to be careful because as the chuck roll gets cut down and broken down into steaks, your eye changes thickness, it changes texture, it changes grains, and that's going to change your whole idea of what you can do with it. Piggybacking on the primal, I do know that if you buy a large chunk of meat and break it down and freeze it yourself, you're definitely going to save a lot more money than what we paid here. However, that takes up a ton of freezer space, and then you're locked into only having those 2 cuts after you break them down. I myself like to incorporate different meat options into our cooking habits, so I'm not really focused on having 15 pounds of chuck roast in the freezer at once. I would much rather try to find a chuck roast on sale and picking out the correct chuck roast and then breaking it down myself and having a few in the freezer. You see that seam that separates the 2? That is the sweet spot. All you have to do, you don't even really need a knife, is just separate it by the seam. Just like that, okay? So this is the prized possession. This one's a little bit sought after more. This is gonna be your chuck eye steak. A little bit thicker. Especially I know a lot of people out there have relationships with their butchers. This would be one of them where when they break down a chuck roll, say, it's exactly what I did. Hey, next time you break down a chuck roll, save the best portion for me and cut a little bit thicker than when you would when you just put it out into the deli case, because I want to be able to break it down myself. So a little bit thick, right? So we're just going to cut this in half. You don't have to have a fancy knife or anything like that. We have used these several times on the Flat Top King for all kinds of stuff, and we actually eat these quite often.
We love chuck eye steaks.
Hey, the price of ribeyes lately, $22, $24, $26.99 a pound sometimes. You get chuck eye steaks for $10.99 a pound, pretty common. And now that we know that we can separate a chuck roast and do it ourselves, I know one of our grocery stores had them on sale for $5.98 a pound. That's hard to beat. This piece right here is known as like your stew meat. We're just going to trim that off. You're just following that same fat seam.
Now, could you grind that up for like burgers?
100%. It's got a little silver skin on there. You'd want to take care of that.
It already looks like a Denver steak.
You also see this in the grocery store too, known as beef ribs, beef short ribs. It just doesn't have the bone in it, but there's probably, my guess is the way they determine it is what they think is going to sell. You would break that down as well, and there you are. That is the perfect Denver steak. Breakfast steak sometimes, or Ingalls said they'll call it. And we're gonna do the same thing, just cut it right in half. If you had a meat slicer, you can actually take your chuck roast and slice it thin. And you could do like carne asada with it and stuff like that. So that's not bad. 4 steaks, nice little ground right there. You can actually cut that if you wanted to, and we can. Since we're not doing really anything with it, I'll just cut it right in half and we'll cook that up today. Shake that, salt, pepper, garlic, and butter. We're just going to come in here and just season each one of them. Let them sit out while our pellet smoker is coming up to temp. I just want to briefly mention pellet grills. We are going to use a Lone Star today because of the open flame feature that it has. This is going to be more of a grilling steak versus like a reverse sear. When you decide as a consumer, it doesn't matter which pellet grill you have, the Weber, the Traeger, the Pit Boss, it doesn't matter. You need to make sure that it's clean from the grease. Anytime you bump your pellet smoker up to a higher temperature and max it out, that's when you get those, the flame bombs that you see, you know, when people open the grill, the grease catches on fire, and then you got a problem. So before you start grilling on high temperature on any pellet smoker, or really Weber kettle or any grill you have, make sure it's clean. I've already done that today. I've cleaned it out, looking good. The reason why I'm using the Lone Star today, I do feel like it has the best grill option available. It's a little bit bigger than the Pit Boss. I'm going to use this today. I've used it very sparingly. There's no rhyme or reason. People keep asking me all the time, do I use them? And I'll say no. I'm not really a big fan of them. But we're going to try it today on the Lone Star because the Lone Star can bump that temp up pretty good. So I've had it rocking in anywhere. Oh, you good?
Yep.
I've had it on 350 for quite a while. The whole time we've been doing our chuck steaks, it's been up to 350. And the reason is I really wanted to get the grill and those greases, those juices, the fats melted. I want to get it out of the way, especially when you clean it. You know, you get a lot of stuff stirred up. So I'm going to show you right here. I'm just going to come back in here, trying to get as much of that crap off the thing as possible. You'll also see and notice that when you heat up your grill after you clean it, you're going to notice a lot more smoke. We get questions about that too. Did they mess up cleaning it and all that stuff? And that's just the part of that grease that's going in different positions. I'm going to open up the flame pot, the fire pot, whatever it's called. I'm going to take our temperature all the way up. Okay. Then I'm going to set this right on top of our grates. And that's going to do a few things for us. So it's also going to protect that fat from the beef just dripping right into our fire pot. So it's going to hit these channels and hopefully funnel down. And it will allow smoke. Some people say that this aluminum or metal, whatever it's called, actually heats up in a higher temperature than what the grill says. I'm going to use a thing and test it out. But we're just going to grill our steaks on this. Once the pellet grit hit 450, it's raised to about 470. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. We've had it about 10 minutes at that high temperature. Once it got to 450, I didn't just immediately open the lid and start grilling. You need that metal in there to warm up as well. It also helps retain temp. So I'm gonna take my ThermoWorks infrared gun, and we use it on the Flat Top King all the time. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mention my steak hack all the time. We just got butter laid on the pan. I've just got some W sauce, Worcestershire sauce. You pick your favorite. Little dab over the butter. And as that steak comes off the grill, we're immediately going to put them on here. It's going to melt that butter, mix in with that sauce. Then you get the natural juices from the steaks that all mixes in, and then you can pour that over your steaks, and we love it. Little tip. All right, that's not bad at all. That's beautiful hatch marks right there. So lay it right on top. That's the hot side first. With that butter, let that start melting. And I'll just go ahead and take these off, and we'll finish the video. Oh yeah. See that pan sauce right there? That's what I'm talking about. See how it covers that steak? Let that one get back in its home. All right, so this is the chuck eye steak. We've had it several times. Cook it to your liking. Want the first bite? Mm-hmm. What are you looking at? Like what?
Like it's a piece of meat.
Same look I get.
But
You haven't looked at me like that since we got married.
Where'd you push? Tastes like a chuck eye steak. It's a winner.
Here's the one that I don't have high hopes, but people swear up and down by it, so we'll try it. Boy, it is tender. That's the first bite. God, that's juicy. Holy smokes. You did a good job, kid. Way to cook them.
Tastes like a regular steak.
It's fantastic.
It is. It is fantastic.
I'm not gonna lie, you gotta chew it. It ain't gonna dissolve like a filet or like a ribeye. It's almost like the chewy part of the ribeye, but the flavor's there. So why don't you just get a chuck steak or a chuck roast, then cut the whole thing in half, and then season up and grill it like a steak? But it's funny. So you can't take a chuck roast and grill the whole chuck roast because it takes too long to grill it. So the outside probably gets tough before the inside gets tender. This is, I'm gonna tell you what.
Tastes like
for $8.98 a pound.
Steak.
My kids, as finicky as they are, would absolutely love this.
Yep.
Because they don't like fat. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Honestly, like I said in the beginning of the video, I honestly had no idea. I've heard of chuck eye steaks. I just didn't know what part they truly came from. I've seen liver steak in the grocery store. I had no idea they came from that part of the primal. I think it's pretty deep. Hope you guys learned something. Pay attention to your pellet smokers, especially a lot of people getting their pellet smokers out. They haven't used it in a long time. First thing you want to do is do a pork butt, a brisket, ribs, all that fat drips down. They keep it, and then they want to crank it up, and then all of a sudden you catch that grease on fire. So just make sure you clean it out really good. Bump that temp up, and then once it gets up there, let it stay at that temp for a little while so that metal warms up on your grill, and you should be good to go. I don't know if that metal piece matters. It's not the fact I'm pro with it or pro against it. I just don't know if it matters that much to have it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button, pound the notification button, share it with friends. Peace.
It works, honey.
I'm gonna tell you what. I mean, that is dang good.
It's a legit steak.
$23.98, I think, for the whole package.
Yep.
So that means if we split it, that's $11.50 a person, $12 a person for this much steak. Add a salad or a baked potato, you can't eat that at a dang restaurant.
That's 4 good sized steaks.
Mmm.